Smarta mobiltelefoner, datorer, den ständiga uppkopplingen till internet. Allt detta har gjort oss tillgängliga på ett helt nytt sätt. Rankin menar att detta har förändrat förutsättningarna för undervisningen och att den därför måste förändras i grunden. Det allra viktigaste är att utbildning upplevs som angeläget för studenterna.
I think the biggest challenge facing education has to do with relevancy. Many of our students don't find their educations to be relevant to their lives, either the lives that they're regularly living or the lives that they're about to live as they move into professions and into further studies. And so I think our task as teachers is to make that learning more relevant. And so what I'm suggesting is a move away from simulation and isolated classrooms and a move towards engagement in real-world situations so that our students are solving real problems in the real world, which makes their learning actually much richer and actually makes their learning much more profound.
Why do you think that is? Because I believe a lot of educators agree with you. Why does it look like it does in today's classrooms?
You know, I think part of the problem is we tend to teach based on how we learned. And there were reasons that had to do with scale, that had to do with technology, actually. There were reasons why we just couldn't do this kind of learning before. I mean, you had to learn in a classroom because that classroom had to stay close to the library, because the library was where all the information was, and the library couldn't move. But now the library fits in my pocket. And so I can take that information out into the world, into real situations, using these technologies. And that, I think, allows me then to engage the world in a new way.
Och även om den nya tekniken erbjuder många möjligheter så finns det problem, menar Rankin. Ett exempel på det är att alla verkligen inte har tillgång.
Yeah, I think that's a very significant problem and one we have to address. I think a country like Sweden, which has famously a very even distribution of wealth and authority. I mean, it's a very level culture, really. I think Sweden could be one of the leaders in the world for helping us understand how to do this. And so I'm very excited to be in this country and to understand the ways that Swedish education is changing. But I do think we have to find a way to make sure that all students have equal access and equal potential.
There are gaps in society as far as the student goes, but are there also gaps within the teacher community?
There are gaps, I think, within the teacher community, and they often come from how we understand our role, from the notion of pedagogy, that is what teaching is and what learning is. And I think that it's the job of conferences like this and of leaders like those people who are here to help bridge those gaps as well. So we have one technological issue, but we have another that's sort of a cultural issue or a social issue, and we have to address both of those, I think, at the same time.
Do you think new technology actually improves democracy?
I think new technology can improve democracy. I think we've certainly seen technologies that increase the divide rather than lessening the divide, that bring us further apart rather than closer together. So it's our job. I think it's the job of thinking people, of educators. It's the job of politicians to help use those technologies in ways that do bring us closer together rather than pushing us further apart.
En annan förändring, menar Rankin, är att den nya tekniken, de nya sätten att kommunicera, att ta del av varandras kunskaper, förändrar relationen mellan lärare och student.
I think new technologies are indeed changing our relationships and need to change our relationships. We've seen this happen a few times before in history. When the printed book emerged, for example, it fundamentally changed the relationship between teachers and students. And I think we're at what I would like to think of as the third age of information. The move, initially information was contained in hands. You had to either handwrite information or you had to be close enough to touch a person, to learn from them. Books allowed us then, the age of books allowed us to move information freely. But it locked us down in other ways. It standardized us because the printing press had to be standardized. But now we're in the age of data, and I think that third age fundamentally changes what we as teachers need to do and how we need to train our students.